This is Planet Music.
From the makers of Planet Marzipan.
In a streaming world, we're proud to be a podcast that celebrates the art of the album. Hello, welcome to Planet Music. I'm Meza. I'm here with my good friends.
Craig.
And?
Mikey.
And?
Graham.
Oh, Graham.
I see.
Yeah.
Graham.
It's a Sunday name, is it?
Yes, he's taking full accountability, folks.
He is taking full accountability.
All will become clear. As you can see from the title of the episode, we are here to discuss the second Big Country studio album, Steeltown, released on the 19th of October 1984. And it is Graham Teddick's pick.
Certainly is.
Okay.
Certainly is.
We will start with the Wikipedia entry for this album. Steeltown is the second studio album from the Scottish band Big Country. The album was recorded at ABBA's Polar Studios in Stockholm, with Steve Lillywhite producing. It was released on the 19th of October 1984 in the UK and the 29th of October 1984 in the USA. It was released on CD only in Germany, as well as remastered and reissued there. Steeltown is the band's only UK #1 album, topping the chart for 1 week in October 1984. The title track, Steeltown, was written about the town of Corby, telling how many Scots went to work at the Stuart's and Lloyd's Steelworks when it opened in 1935 at the height of the Great Depression, but later found themselves unemployed when the steelworks closed in May 1980. The 1996 reissue contains all the B-sides from the album's single releases, as well as the extended version of the non-album single Wonderland. East of Eden was the only top 20 single from the album, reaching number 17 in the UK singles chart. And it goes on, but I'm not going to read anymore. Craig, how old were you on the 19th of October 1984?
I was the ripe old age of 12.
Oh, you'd have been first in line for this then, wouldn't you?
In fact, I think we've tackled another album which was released around about this time a while ago.
Was it Frankie?
It was something like that, because I
Roundabout.
Yeah, it was roundabout, because I know roundabout that time was just when my granddad Houston had died, and I remember we'd gone away just for a few days to escape everything to Blackpool for a few days. I remember around about that time, that was where, and I remember that being also where I bought me B-wing fighter from Star Wars for.
Well, we shall
There we go,
discuss
folks.
down there. We'll be discussing that in depth in a future episode, folks. Want to look forward to there.
It got me sci-fi stuff in somewhere.
There's an interesting addition to that Wikipedia thing. Concert Steelworks, which is up mine
exact same time in the
1980. Yeah, that also closed in 1980.
Right.
The album spent 21 weeks in the UK chart. It dislodged The Unforgettable Fire by U2 from the #1 spot, and was superseded the week after by Paul McCartney's Give My Regards to Broad Street.
Yep. And strangely, they are then lodged, I think it was Under a Blood Red Sky, off the charts with their next album as well, with the next album as well. It was like really bizarre. If you think about it at that time.
Well, it said this Wikipedia says this was their only UK #1. So.
Yeah. So, but no, the Coursing came back.
Sorry?
The Coursing came back. The Coursing spent something like 220 something weeks in the chart or something, some ridiculous thing.
So was the
whereas this spent 20.
Then?
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
They spent 21 and then disappeared.
The Crossing is the first album by Big Country.
That's the debut album. Yep.
So great. This is your pick. So I'm going to ask you to tell us about where you were and a little bit about the background to this album, please.
So I was a teenager living in Dunblane attending a school for the sons of Scottish soldiers, sailors and airmen, wearing a kilt, getting drenched in everything that was Scottish history and Scottish pride, and just this was one of the things that everybody at school was in a big country. In fact, the older boys were into the skids beforehand, so I'd.
See, I love the skids.
Skids are amazing. The skids are amazing. So, for those that don't know, Stuart Adamson, guitarist and lead vocalist for Big Country, had previously been in the Skids with Richard Jobson. He was a guitarist and primary writer for the Skids, even a lot of the later lyrics and stuff. Although Jobson did some of the earlier stuff, and at that time, he was considered one of the most influential guitarists of all time. You know, the Edge quotes. There's quotes from the Edge about how influential Stuart Adamson was and how he defined part of his sound and helped him realize he didn't have to be flash, but he could use effects and things to make the sound different and be original. They did a couple of albums. After the third album, he walked before the tour because he was completely disillusioned with the music industry. Or so he thought. Turns out he was actually completely disillusioned with the record producer. He said in hindsight, he had a really bad experience with a producer that he didn't agree with. And one of the reasons I chose this album is The Crossing is considered to be kind of a seminal album because it's got kind of Scottish Celtic rock folk. It's not folk rock, it's rock folk. It's got the famous bagpipe guitar sounds that they became known for. Disparagingly, it was both loved by Scots and hated by everybody else at times, and they came to hate that reference. They came to hate, much as Marillion or Stephen Wilson hate prog. They came to hate that bagpipe guitar sound, and it's not as prominent on this album particularly. It's not as prominent. The sort of the Evo sound is there, but it's not as in your face and as prominent. But they defined a sound which everybody became really popular, and the album. They had 2 number 1 singles from the first album. They did a 57-date US tour off the back of the first album. They toured Japan, they toured Europe, they toured UK 3 times off that first album. It was like one of those things that just went boom. The first album didn't even chart. The second album, I believe, was a top 5 single. So they had this huge liftoff. Strangely, known as a Scottish band. Not one of them was born in Scotland. Before we go any further, we'll get that out of the way in case anybody actually wants to say it. Not one of them was born in Scotland. Bruce Watson was born in Canada. Stuart Adamson was born in Manchester, but they all moved there when they were fairly young, and sort of became Scots by default. And drenched in, because of where they were in Dunfermline, you've got Rosyth dockyards, you've got the collieries, you've got all this steelwork, you've got all the stuff in Fife. And in Scotland, the Scottish belt area where it's all industry.
Very similar to the northeast of England.
Yes, very much so. And that's really apparent in this because it affects everything about this album, where it was written and the time it was written. It affects everything. And Stuart Adamson, in writing this album, wanted to reflect how he felt, really quite dark. He didn't enjoy touring. He didn't enjoy the studio experience. If you read the new book that's come out, there's a lot of darkness around this time because... What
is the new book? Because some of them...
It's called Stay Alive. It's called Stay Alive, the life and death of Stuart Adamson, and it is an authorised biography. So he has the full engagement of both Stuart Adamson's wives, his kids, the band members and everybody. So there are... And it's... If you do Audible... Mark Bonner, Scottish actor, is reading it, and it is a brilliant listen. Okay. Yeah, really good listen because he does you can hear him do accents. But there is a disclaimer at the start of the audiobook that says this band was Scottish. All the characters that tell the story are Scottish. We've decided it must be told in Scots. Therefore, there's a glossary at the end of the book for those of you who don't understand everything that's said. So I will put that warning out there. It's a fantastic listen. And it's a better read than Alan Glenn's, I think it was called In a Lifetime. Was it called In a Lifetime? Alan Glenn's sort of unofficial biography of Stuart Adamson, which was done by research and anecdotal evidence rather than talking to people, because people wouldn't talk to him at that time. Really good read. Okay. So they went from that huge album. They had Steve Lillywhite producing.
Steve
Lillywhite producing.
Steve Willywhite.
Lillywhite, we'll call him, right? Okay.
Right.
Who, let's be honest, produced just about everything at that time. If you look at people like U2, Simple Minds, all that kind of stuff, that
He was
kind
all
of
over
big
the 80s,
music,
wasn't
he was all over it.
Didn't produce Rush.
Yeah, well, we know that, don't we?
Should have.
He should have done. He should have done. So they finished the album. They went on tour. They released Wonderland as a single in January '84 as a kind of a stopgap. We'll cover that at the end of the album. I don't want to talk about because I think there's a real contrast between the two, between the single and the album. So we'll do that at the end. And then they finished the tour, had a bit of a rest, and went over to, is it Polar Studios? It's called, isn't it? ABBA's studio. Started doing some work. They struggled with it for various reasons, which I'll get into. But they were also, the writing sessions were disrupted because Paul Young pulled out of Elton John's summer festival in London, and he asked Big Country to play instead. So they stopped their recording sessions, did some rehearsals, flew over to the UK, did the festival, and came back. I'll probably stop there and talk more through as the songs come out, and we can talk through where he was and what he was doing. But compared to The Crossing, it's a much denser, darker album. I will just say that.
I mean, you can just do a solo episode if you want. We'll just watch. Shall we get into the music? He says, just completely rearranging his desk and everything that's on it while you were talking there. It's a 10-track album, and then we're going to pick up Wonderland at the end, aren't we? And do that.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Kind of 11th track.
Yeah.
So the first track on side one of the record is Flame of the West. Mikey, what do you make of this track?
Well, I'm going to say this from the top because I don't want to repeat myself all the way through. There is absolutely nothing to fault with any of the musicianship on this album. The guitars, the bass work, the drumming, it is all absolutely fucking awesome. I'd always... Big Country passed me by completely. It just wasn't my bag at age 10, 11, when they first came out. And I think I had this misconception that they were sat somewhere between U2 and Simple Minds and not quite achieving either. As I now know, that is a completely wrong painting of them to give. So I'll say from the off, I'm going to tell my 11-year-old self off and tell him he was wrong. So, Flame of the West, it's a really, really, really strong opener for this album, I feel. What I loved from the off is those guitar twangs at the start, which to me sounded like a hammer hitting steel. I don't know if that was intentional.
Yep.
I thought it was a sample to start with. I thought, oh, here we go, it's Depeche Mode's Construction Time again. But after a couple of listens, I realised it was guitar. I wrote the word down, Juggernaut. I don't think there's any other way I could express it, really. It just starts and it just plows through. Absolutely amazing stuff. The only thing I will say is I felt that the mix was slightly off for this first track. More so in the verses. More so in the verses than the chorus. I just feel like the vocals were just too low down in the mix. I had to, somebody else is probably going to mention this. I think Craig mentioned it before we started recording. I had to get the lyrics up for the verses because it was just so muddy. I just couldn't hear what he was trying to say. So once I got through that, I was fine. But I just felt from the off that the mix was just not quite right. And it's a shame because, as I said at the top, the musicianship is off the charts. It really is. They are all absolutely fantastic. The guitar solos in this first track, just what? I don't know what I was expecting, but this wasn't it. The solo at the end, I have to say, it gets really, really good. And then the track does this really unforgivable thing. It's a really, really long and slow fade out, and it just is unforgivable. I mean, the track's 5 minutes long, so you could argue, it's long enough. Back in the early 80s, it was a case of fitting 20 odd minutes of music to either side of a vinyl. I get it, but this really should have been given time to breathe. So as much as it's a good opener, that's a major gripe for me for the end of this track. And I will mention it once or twice again as the album progresses, but sound start.
Okay. Craig?
I'll refer to my notes, and I said at the end, 80s fade out.
Yeah.
But to be fair, what Mike, there's so much of what I was going to say, Mikey's already well covered it. I agree to say the mix, it's very wall of sound, but not Phil Spector wall of sound. It's a different kind of wall of sound. Musicianship, especially, the drums of the Flying Vreshetsky brother. Great stuff. What I'll pivot a bit. Lyrically, this song is one of those songs that is very, very pertinent today, because my take on it, whether you're going to agree or disagree, but you can read this as the rise of populism and a populist kind of figure within it, not exactly necessarily a Trump style figure, but something along those lines. And
to be honest, Craig, I felt that for quite a lot of this album.
Yes, that's what I'm going to get. It's a very political album, and it's a very man of the people's version of what's happening in the world. Yes, it's charged, and it's a working man's point of view, because there's songs in this that deal with everything from war through like working life, through growing up and realizing that life isn't what you thought it was going to be. That's lyrically, there's so much depth to this album, and it's one of those things that you really only see it because, like what Mikey was saying earlier on, you don't necessarily get it in listening to it, because you've really got to listen to get through the lyrics. When you read the lyrics are really powerful through this album, but I think this song's almost like a warning call to not follow people like what they're talking about. So yeah, I think it's very impressive. I'm with Mikey on it.
Okay. I'm going to give my comments before we come to Gray, who will probably have a lot to say about most of the tracks on this album. I had to check who produced this because it's so muffled and muddy, and it's a real shame because, as the guys have already said, there's lots going on. I have to say, Tony Butler's bass on this is phenomenal. It's driving the whole thing along, but he's up and down the frets as well. It's not just, it's not basic stuff. The middle eight, around about 240, the whole thing changes. The instrumental section kicks in, and then you're back to the twin guitars. I'm a big fan of Brzezicki as well. On some of these tracks, he does too much. He doesn't on this particular. It's a great start. As the guys have said about the lyrics, I think they're all pretty much, they can be taken in different ways, Stuart's lyrics, I think. And a bit like Mr. H, you can apply them to different things, and this certainly falls into that category. And in his eyes was the flame of the West, until it burns he never rests. He had the voice of an angel, the face of a saint, and though they fell behind him, I knew what it was he meant. It's very strong stuff. Go on then, Gray.
So you're close about the Trump thing, but before we get to that, we have to get the mixing out of the way. Okay, so one of the things that really upset Stuart in the Skids was when producers tried to make him do overdubs and do things that he was a firm believer that you should be able to do live what you do on the record. If it's a 4-piece band, you should be able to do it. And that's apparent on The Crossing. Although they're quite complex arrangements, they could do it completely. Unfortunately, that didn't carry forward to this album. Steve Lillywhite was really, he didn't want to change the vision of the album, but he wanted, his first complaint was there was no riffs. There was no big riffs. Like if you listen to Angle Park or Fields of Fire or stuff, or even in a big country, there's guitar riffs, there's chunky guitar riffs. This is all complex guitar parts. And it's complex guitar parts that are layered. There are more than 2 guitar parts in every single one of these songs. It's weaving all over that. And then you've got the really heavily chorused bass that fills out the space even more. And I believe Steve Lillywhite is quoted somewhere as saying that he recorded Bezecchi's drums one at a time.
What?
He recorded the kit separately to get a big sound and then mixed it together.
Mic'd separately?
Yeah. No. Recorded the drums one at a time. So he would like play a tom. He would do that. He would do like snare and kick, and then he would do the toms, and then he would do the octos, and then he would do bits, and then he would do the cymbals. And it's something Dave Grohl's done to get a really big sound and to make it balanced and consistent. I don't think he did it for all of the tracks, but he is quoted as saying that he did that for some of the songs. And I understand why in a way, because Mikey talked about that it's like a steelworks. And part of that is throughout this song. If you listen to it, a lot of what I agree with you to an extent, John, there's bits of this album where Mark's a little bit busy.
Yeah.
But also there's bits of it.
Because of the muddy mix, him clattering around on top of it makes it even worse.
But there's also points where it actually plays. I think even
the next track is amazing. The rhythm section,
the first 3 tracks,
the rhythm section on the next track is brilliant.
Yeah. So Steve Lillywhite says that Mark Bezecchi and Tony Butler are the best rhythm section he has ever worked with the possible exception of the rhythm section of Simple Minds. And it's interesting that when Derek Forbes and Mel Gaynor and Derek Forbes.
Yeah.
Okay. And interestingly, when Tony Butler left Big Country in 2012, Derek Forbes was a replacement bass player. And they started playing East. They started playing Steeltown stuff again live. So quite interesting. Lyrically, it's about a visit. It's about the American influence in Northern Ireland. It's about the Cold War. And it's about some of the other influences that Reagan was starting to do. And there is a quote where Stuart Adamson says, "This is the situation we find ourselves in politically when you allow B-movie actors to start taking control of a country." And then he said, the journalist says, "Oh, you mean Ronald Reagan?" He went, "I didn't say that." Okay, so yes, it's very political, and the whole album's political. I mean, there's a quote from the liner notes of the deluxe version which says, "Perhaps more than any other album in the Big Country canon, Steeltown, which rocketed straight to #1 on its release, is the most accurate reflection of the band's political and social concerns." And because Stuart Adamson's grandfather was one of the founders of the Fife Communist Party, so very active. His father was in the Merchant Navy, worked in the pits, so union driven and active. All of his friends worked in coal yards or dockyards, and we'll get to the song "The Great Divide" later, and we'll talk about that. But they were very, very pro-people, pro-community, not anti-establishment as such, but anti-domineering government and privatization and all this kind of stuff. So everything that we're seeing now in the States with the money talking and all that kind of stuff, if you think about Thatcher and privatization and closing down of pits and closing down of steelworks and selling off all the stuff, this is what they're railing against. And Flame of the West, main drive of it is a Ronald Reagan visit to Northern Ireland and everything that goes to that and the American influence in the rest of the world. But there is a counter theory, and somebody says that there is somebody who has written into a podcast in America about Big Country and said that actually the Flame of the West is talking about Narsil in Lord of the Rings.
Lordy of the Rings.
Isildur's Bane, yeah. So say that's what the flame is the West is, and like fighting evil from the West and all that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
he's quoted as saying it was Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, but if you think of like any time a certain Tango Mussolini turns up, Scotland have been right at the forefront for calling him out. I mean, what was that woman who put the big
Trump.
sign of Donald Trump as a
You can beep that bit out, otherwise I'll get banned from America. Yeah, but musically, this is amazing. I think barnstorm is the right word. It comes in at 1,000,000 miles an hour and doesn't slow down until it does the unforgivable thing of fading out.
It's not that long a fade out. It's about 30 seconds.
Still too long.
Yeah,
Not the end of the world,
it's as
though.
bad as calling all stations. That's all I'm going to say.
No. Okay, moving on to track 2, East of Eden, Mikey.
Oh, I love this one. I love this one. I love the intricate guitars at the start, and then the vocal, just the announcement of the word "go," and then the drums kick in. Oh my God, the drums to this track are absolutely phenomenal. They just make this track for me. It's got a rhythm to it, and I'm going to mention a band here. And I don't want just to screw your faces up, but it kind of reminded me of Adam and the Ants. It has that driving drum rhythm.
It's kind of almost a dub bass as well.
Yeah, the drums are quite Adam and the Ants.
Yeah. This just ticked all the boxes for me. It really did. I don't know what I was expecting on this album, but this was definitely what I wasn't expecting, and I loved it. I mean, just even some of the lyrics. Some days I just don't worry, I let it walk through me. Some days I need to bury the very depths of me. It's brilliant stuff. And there's a bit just after the lyric goes, I let my conscience be. There's this absolutely rip-roaring guitar work, but it's dark. It is really dark and foreboding. And I just thought, this and the drums, right, that's an extra box ticked. Absolutely loved it. The only unforgivable thing is we've got yet another fade out. But when I was doing my when I was doing my diggy, I found out on Discogs that there was a 12-inch version of it. So I thought,
it was the first single proper from the album, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it got to 17 in the charts. Not too bad. But yeah, the extended version I thought would be on the deluxe edition. It's not. So I went to YouTube, and there's a 6-minute 22 extended version of it. Oh my God, it is awesome. It's got more drums than you could possibly ever imagine. It's got a fantastic intro, and it's got a far better ending. It actually ends. So look on YouTube for the extended version of this song, because it is mind blowing. Absolutely.
I'll just prick it out of my collection of 12 inches.
I might have to steal it.
Craig, what do you make of it?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting choice as a first single. You know, it's quite a driving theme. I agree with Maggie on the sounds of it. Great is that, to me, I don't know if I'm right, a lot of the guitar sounds seem like twin guitar versions. I think they're like doubled up.
Yeah, it's Bruce and Stuart, and they're really well known for using
the riffs to it,
an even-time harmonizer and stuff as well. So even when it's only one of them, there's like harmony parts played.
Yeah.
So they would do. Yeah.
Yeah, it's it's powerful guitars and drums and everything that expected. Very good driving song. It doesn't really fit what you would think of as a single in 1984, though. It's not. It doesn't feel like dated, but it doesn't necessarily feel of its time there. But yeah, that a cardinal sin of a fade out. But I think it's a rocking track.
Okay. I think the rhythm is what sets this apart. I can understand why it didn't do as well as previous singles, because it's not a flag waving big country track, is it at all?
No, it's not in the slightest.
It's complex, and you know, it probably stands up to repeated listens more, I think, because of that. It's the first use of "cha" on the album. So yeah, I mean, that's on your bingo card if you listen to a big country album, isn't it? Stuart saying "cha."
So, right, before you go any further, there is one point on this album where you might initially think he says "cha," but he says something else. If any of you spot it, I'll buy you a pint next time I see
Where
it.
the Roses Sung?
It
All
might
right.
be.
Yeah, well, there you go. That's my guess. I think that the melody of the chorus comes through really strongly in this track, which is probably what Flame of the West was missing. Even struggling through the mix, it seems that there's a little bit more space in East of Eden to allow things to come through. It's still not a great mix, but and I've been listening to the 2014 remaster, if that helps at
Yeah,
all.
that's what I was listening to.
But over to the man himself, Gray, what do you make of East of Eden?
So now, I wouldn't have chosen it as a single. I loved it when it came out, but I was already a big country fan, a big country fan. But I've listened to a couple of podcasts over the last few weeks. I've read a lot of stuff, and if you're right in as much as it's not that flag waving, football strip wearing, flannel shirt wearing, stomping, anthemic thing. It actually is. If you give it the repeated listens, a lot of what you think should be there is there, but it's hidden under this complex arrangement. And there's a podcast called The Great Divide, with an American and a Norwegian doing big country singles, albums, things, whatever, and they talk about this. And they're like, there's a point. So they know Bruce Watson, and Bruce Watson has given them a couple of guitar guide tracks, and there's a guitar guide for East of Eden under this, and it is almost ethereal. It's not overdriven. It's not really. It's all really complex, and two guitars like moving around each other. Everything else is done by Tony Butler and Mark Bazecki, and then you get the lead guitars, the actual lead guitar solo stuff done over overdubbed. So it's a lot more complex than you might think, and which is for a big country fan, it's things like The Crossing or Porroh Man and all that kind of stuff. So the really complex, almost prog leaning stuff from the first album. Lyrically, it's kind of more obtuse than Flame of the West. This one, it's kind of feeling stuck where you are looking outright. Is it better in America? Is it better in Europe? Is it, where do I sit? What's going on? And I think that last verse, or that sort of last sort of break where he goes, I looked west in search of freedom and I saw slavery. I looked east in search of answers and I saw misery. It's like, where do we go? The grass isn't greener anywhere and we're fucked here. What do we do? And I think the album itself is in two parts. The first album is about sort of political awareness and societal impact and what's going on. So we had the first, Flame of the West with the American influence. This one, the sort of the dire state of the UK, but nothing else is actually any better, and everybody seems to be going down the same toilet. This side of the album is about that sort of geopolitical thing. The second side is more personal, but they gel because they're all quite negative. There's a kind of desperation to it all, and I think that's reflected in the mix. In the density of everything. It's not an excuse for how bad the mix. I will come to we're going to do it just for the record, by the way.
Yeah, it's fine.
But the song's really strong, and I think it's strong because of the rhythm section on this. Really strong because Tony and Mark are just off the charts. Absolutely off the charts.
Yeah. Okay, on to the title track, Steeltown. Mikey, what do you make of that?
It starts off as a good foot tapper for me, but after the beginning, I kind of lost my way a bit with this track. I don't know why. It's almost. I love the lyrics. I thought the lyrics were absolutely amazing, but it was almost like the music didn't quite fit the lyrics. It's quite uplifting, the music in the verses, probably more so than the chorus.
Do you not think it sounds like Simple Minds?
I didn't really get that, to be honest with you, but
Oh,
I
it sounds
think
it sounds exactly like Simple Minds to me. This, yeah.
I think there's just a certain disconnect between the music and the lyrics for me, and I just found it quite a difficult listen. That's not to say that I didn't enjoy it, because, like I say, the lyrical content I loved. There's a line which goes, "All the landscape was the mill, grim as the reaper, with a heart like hell." I just thought, fucking awesome lyrics. What I really liked about it is he uses a lot of enclosed rhyming in this. So he follows the ABBA format. So you have, like, say, you've got 4 lines. You've got scared, then duck, then stop, and then dead. The way the rhyming works makes the song. Yeah, it that to me was clever and really, really nice work, because it's not the usual ABAB kind of stuff going on. That being said, I think the choruses feel darker than the verses, which work better for me. It's just, I just wish the song had been either one thing or the other, and I think the two just don't quite gel for me. But that's my take on it.
There's a
Sorry to
reason
be
for that.
a bit of a downer for the third track. I wanted to get into it more, but I just couldn't. But love the lyrics. Love the lyrics.
Okay, Craig.
Yeah, I agree with you a bit, John. It does have an almost Simple Minds feel to it, but it also it does this track actually does scream Big Country to me though, and I think this track would have been more, because of the riffs on it, would have been a more earworm for a single. I know this has got the politics all over. You know, this is the one, you know, about the state of decay and the closing of the mill. So this could have been about concerts, like Mikey said as well. I did say there is an interesting live version of this from the Tube.
Yep.
Up from Newcastle back in day. And it's a cracking thing. It's funny because you're watching the audience dance to this, and it's with all the 80s hair and everything like that. And it's an interesting sight to behold. But yeah, I think this is a little bit more tune wise what I was expecting from the album, when it's not being as dense as it is. But you know, it's a title track, and it's an important lyric, I think, as well. So yeah, I don't dislike it at all.
Okay. Yeah, I stand by what I said. I think musically it sounds like Simple Minds, but then Stuart's vocal over the top gives you that Big Country flavour, really. But it's probably, I've played it 3 times now. I think it's kind of revealing itself a bit more to me. This on first listen, there doesn't seem to be too much to it, but yeah, it's more interesting the more I'm playing it, and progressively the album's getting better for me. I think the first track is muddy, the second was a single, and then this is, you know, really starting to come through at this point. I think it's great. Great.
There was, I believe, talk about this being a single, either the lead single or the second single. However, if you look at the lyrics, it doesn't hit a chorus until 2/3 way through the song. It's like 2 minutes 40 into the song before you actually get in a Steeltown, and then you get it repeatedly. So yeah, I get this. I get the Simple Minds. It's kind of a
like Sweating Bullet type era.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a pre-New Gold Dream Simple Minds type.
Definitely.
Yeah. More like that Sweating Bullet, kind of denser than the American or what have you. But for me, this is where you hear Big Country for the first time on the album, or the Big Country of old. It's the one that there's like.
What, from the first album, you mean?
It's more like Big Country from the first album.
Yeah.
Right. I think the reason, Mikey, there is the light and the dark between the verse and the chorus is the verses are actually all about hope. So they'd lost their jobs in the dockyards. They'd lost their jobs in the mills and the pits in Scotland. They had the chance of going down to Corby, They moved down. It was a chance. Huge communities went down. They went down together. They built a community. It was light at the end of a tunnel that they'd lost their jobs at home. They were losing their ability to look after their families, and this was a new beginning. But that new beginning was down a freaking pit. So the darkness of like sweating all the time, no light, the danger, and then the pit closes. And the community is destroyed because everybody, they upped and left home. They left everything that was home and normal for them. They moved out of the pits. And then within a generation, I believe, 2 generations, everything's gone. The pits are closed. The families have got, they're decimated. There's no industry. There's nothing, they lose their livelihood and what have you. So that's where you start off with here I stand with my own kin. At the end of everything, finally the dream is gone and I've had enough of hanging on. And then that's repeated. There I stand with my own kin at the end of everything. Finally, the dream is gone. Nothing left to hang upon. And it's because it starts off, here I am. Industry's gone. We need to move. And it's quite upbeat, though, because they've got this opportunity. And then you've got in the Steeltown where the heat is on, I went down and the heat turned on me. In the Steeltown where the heat is on, I went down and the heat turned on me. And then you get actually, it's all gone. There's fuck all left. So it is kind of light to dark. Would it have worked as a single? I'd like to have hoped so. I think it would have been a better single for the big country fans because that's what kind of thing that they were expecting. They didn't get that with any of the 3 singles from this album. Yeah, I love this song. And I think another example of where Mark's drumming sounds like a pit. It sounds like, the way he plays the cymbals, the way he plays everything, it sounds industrial. It's so well done.
Okay. Moving on to track 4 on side 1, which was the second single, and it's Where the Rose is Sown. Mikey.
I can see why this was chosen to be the second single, because it's got quite an anthemic feel to it. Initially, I thought it was a strange single choice, but I think Graham's kind of nailed it with his comments about Steeltown. This, to me, is what I imagine most of this album would sound like. And some of the highlights for me is the drumming again. You've got this snare drum work, which is almost like a march going on. And I think it just drives the song and it gives it that anthemic feel. It just backs the whole thing up. I think it's absolutely wonderful. At about 2.5 minutes in, there's this, again, absolutely awesome guitar work. Absolutely top-notch stuff. Nothing to dislike here at all. Lyrics again. If I die in a combat zone, box me up and ship me home. If I die and still come home, lay me where the rose is sown. What? Absolutely fucking brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Have to say, I dug into this one as well and discovered another 12-inch mix. There is a 7 minutes 43 version of this song. Oh my God, it is awesome. It's on YouTube, guys. You've got to listen to it. It's far heavier. The drums are dialed up to 100. It's just absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Shame it wasn't on the album in that version. I don't know why it wasn't, but my God, get it on your playlist. It should have been on the bloody deluxe version. Why these extended versions weren't is a travesty. But it's available on YouTube. Get it listened.
Because they put rough mixes on instead. That's what happened.
Yes, they did. Yeah.
Craig, what do you make of Where the Rose is Sown?
Requiem for a post-war dreamer.
Hey, oh, my dad died in the war.
No, this is the young kid stepping straight out of the schoolyard into his khaki fatigues and stuff, and I would be ridiculously shocked and surprised if this did not resonate so strong with a certain person on this podcast who shall remain nameless, Gray. Yeah, this just shows, the facets that this album covers, from growing up to either going down the pit, going into the steelworks, going into the army, going into the
Yep.
services, this is a people growing up and getting disillusioned album, isn't it? All over the place.
Yeah.
And it's an everyman album. I've said that before, and I'm going to say it again through it. This hits home, not just with, Scots, but again with people from the northeast of England, where we went through exactly the same thing, where you went from heavy industry, and if you didn't work in a factory, and if you didn't work in a shipyard, or if you didn't work down the mines, or if you didn't do a job like that, you'd be in the army, or especially in the northeast, we've got so many people who went into the navy.
Yep.
And we've got that culture up north, and this is a song for these people.
You said a lot about the lyrics. I'm going to sort of steer clear of that. I'm just coming at this from a musical angle. I think it's the most open arrangement so far on the record.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot get over Tony Butler on this. I mean, you've gone the whole album, but on this again, he's astounding. I mean, Buzicki's driving it along, but he's all over the frets again. I was just looking at his history while we were chatting there, but I mean, basically they supported the Skids, the band he was in, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
And that's how he was in a band with Buzicki and Simon Townsend called On the Air, and they supported the Skids, which is how he came to Stuart's attention. But he's a phenomenal player on this.
There's little bits in this, so in between stanzas or in between a verse and a chorus, he'll do a run. You'll only do it once in a song, but you'll be playing it and you'll hear the dum, dum, and then you go diddle-diddle-dum, but you can hear every single note pristine. Honestly, some of the flourishes on this, or if you listen, like where the guitars are playing really basic stuff, the bass is playing the melody as well as the rhythm. When he's just all over the place.
Yeah,
it's so good.
And it's a sort of juxtaposition with the twin guitar thing, isn't it? Because he's playing something far more complex than that.
Yeah.
It's great. It's really good. I can see why it wasn't that impactful as a single again.
Yep.
As it's not an out anthem. But yeah, nice track. And I still think he says cha on this as well. But what are you going to tell me he says?
Around about 4 minutes, if you listen.
Yeah.
It's not cha, and it's not a cut-off cha. It is fuck. If you listen to it, and because everybody knows what sha sounds with, this is definitely a fuck.
Okay.
And he decided to leave it in.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah. So I'm going to talk about the lyrics, but not the actual content. It's the way they're done. Okay. So you were talking about the ABBA in the previous song. If you read the verses in this, so I'll do the first 4 lines of the first verse. We're at war, all the papers say, we will win, I read today. We are strong, it wasn't us, we are right, who started this. If you then take the first stanza of each line and read down, it says, we're at war, we will win, we are strong, we are right. The second stanza says, all the papers say, I read today, it wasn't us who started this. So he's actually done split lyrics that come to, and it's the same in the second. And Craig, your point about it's a young boy's story. It's a young boy coming out of school and joining up and putting on the khaki. In the second verse, there's a bit that says, where's it gone? Oh no, it's the second half of the first verse. Leave your work. So it goes, leave your work, leave your home, take up arms, sound alarms. The second half of the lines is, I just left school, I am no fool. It left me strong, the school bell rings. So yeah, it's very much that the young boy responding to the jingoistic call of the nation needs you. And if you think when this was written, shortly after the Falklands War, so Britain was really jingoistic again.
I did note down post-Falklands War anti-tabloid press lyrics, but
and there's also the fact that at this point, again, you went to the Navy, you went to the pits, you went to the dockyards, or you joined the army. And Stuart and Richard Jobson from the Skids had friends who went to, basically they joined up to be, Richard Jobson's actually quoted as saying, he says, we had friends who joined up to be mechanics or technicians who ended up on the Falls Road in Northern Ireland carrying a rifle with a helmet on. So this is their experience. This is their friends they're talking about. These are the people that got carried away by the jingoistic, oh, come on, you serve your nation, see the world. What was it called? Was it Frank? In the adverts when we were young? Where's Frank? And he's like skiing, and he had the TV adverts of the soldiers going skiing and going out partying and all that kind of stuff. It was like Fred or Frank. I can't remember. But it was all that kind of, and Fish sings about it. You know, if you look about Forgotten Sons and all that kind of stuff, you know, he talks about that kind of, the government doesn't tell you the truth. It tells you what you want to hear to feel like you are being a hero and nationalistic and what have you. But it's so powerful, the words, like the bit that Mikey calls out, you know, if I die in a so it starts off with that jingoistic stuff. And then it goes, I wait here in this hole, praying poker with my soul. I hold the rifle close to me. It lights the way to keep me free. So he's in a bit of a different fucking mindset by now. And he's stuck in a pit, stuck in a trench. You know, if I die in a combat zone, box me up and ship me home. It's really powerful stuff. And for somebody who, I mean, his dad was in the Merchant Navy, so he wasn't directly related to people in the forces. But it just shows the kind of mentality of the time and the awareness of that geopolitical landscape. And I think it's why it wasn't, I think you're right, John, it's why it wasn't successful as a single. Although the country was jingoistic and all this kind of stuff, and, you know, like Maggie Thatcher was the savior of the country for some and like the devil incarnate for others, it was still, nobody wanted to hear about that shit. They didn't want to know that we were at war still and we were fighting people on our own doorstep and all that kind of stuff. So it wouldn't work. I don't see it working as a single. It's not the right thing to be putting out as a single for me at the time.
It does.
And then it goes straight into the next song.
Straight into the last track on the first side of the album, Come Back to Me.
Yeah.
Mikey.
I love this one because it's a completely different feel to the rest of the side. First of all, lyrically, it feels like it's sung from the point of view of a woman, but I'm not entirely sure about that. It was
that's what I got.
Callback. Yeah, there's callbacks to the Rose as well, which is mentioned a couple of songs earlier. The lyrics go, as the years hang on me, you will always be young, and one day I will lie down where the rose was flung. Not where it was sown, where it was flung. So I thought that was a really, really nice take. Love the fact that there's a Celtic and folky feel to this. I'm getting what I imagine to be proper big country song here. I don't know. I've not played any of the other stuff. I'm not aware of the stuff before this album, but I thought if it's another one of them tracks where I thought this is what I was expecting to hear, but I wasn't disappointed either. I think this song's really, really interesting. And I believe it's in waltz time. Yeah, absolutely love it. The only gripe, I've got is there's a really, really fantastic bit of guitar work at about just before the 4-minute mark. It is dark, it is serious, it is gritty, and it just starts getting interesting. And then the song ends. I just really wish it had played out a little bit longer. That needed some more room to breathe for me. But I adore this track. I think it's absolutely brilliant.
Good.
But you got to bear in mind, Mikey, this is still the days of vinyl. So
that's what I said earlier.
This is a 25-minute side here.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's not really room for tracks to be playing out. But Craig, what do you make of Come Back to Me?
I think this song is a direct reaction to the song previous. It's told from the other half side, and I feel, you know what you talk about, the style of this song. I take this song actually as a lament. and it's the other half living without the person that's either away or has been lost, and it's heartbreaking, and it's beautiful, and yeah, it's a change of pace and everything like that, and I think it's very, very strong lyrically and emotionally, and the music works with it perfectly.
Yeah, this is certainly a side of Big Country that I'd not really seen, if I'm honest. It's a shame they kind of left it to the end of the first side. It probably needed to be moved up on the track list for me, this, to sort of break things up on that first side. I think, as you both said, the lyrics are great. I mean, I watched them gather round him when he stepped down from the car. While tears fell on my cigarette, he handed out cigars. I have your child inside me, but you will never know. I will never forget you while I watch that child grow. Wow. Amazing. Go on then, Gray.
It is ridiculously powerful as
Yeah.
a song. And it's, I mean, Where the Rose is Sown in this is a couplet. It is the man's story and the woman's story. And actually, I think it might be on the Live Without the Aid of a Safety Net album. I'm not sure, but it's certainly he introduces it. It's quite a dark album, quite like a dark song. So if you think about it, the context of it is like, you know, somebody dying, somebody's having to live without the person they love, and all that kind of stuff. And live, he introduced it by saying, "And now, with the wonders of modern technology, I'm going to have a sex change right in front of you and sing the song as a woman." And that's, you know, he was quite open about the fact that this was the woman's perspective of that piece. I think I hadn't thought about it, John, but I think if you'd moved Where the Rose is Sown and this to the other side of either Steeltown or East of Eden, and you'd had that really powerful start and it comes down and then brings up it, that might have made the album either flown better or more palatable, because
It's the denseness of the first part of this record.
Yeah, you are absolutely shattered by this stage of the listen. You're just like, oh my God, I'll take 5 minutes before I turn over the album.
But, I mean, side two is a different story altogether.
Totally. Interestingly, so this Come Back to Me, there is a... So after this, they did the soundtrack to a film called Restless Natives. Absolutely brilliant pieces of music. And on the soundtrack, there is a piece of music called Home Come the Angels. Strangely, in the actual movie, they used this and not Home Come the Angels.
All right.
So this actually appears in the soundtrack to the movie, and it's really, really good. It's just one of those things. I mean, you read that middle double verse where where they're handing out cigars and watch your child grow and stuff. It's heartbreaking stuff.
Yeah.
It's also, to me, it's a throwback to things like the guitar arrangements in Poroman and The Storm. And lyrically, it's almost kind of like the Chance. So if you read the lyrics there's a song called Chance on the first album, which again is about a woman that's been saved. It's about a woman that's been saved. It's been given a chance, but it has that kind of sentimentality about it. A perfect way to finish the side. It gives you that breather. It's kind of a really sad and emotional, but also a bit of a release.
Yeah.
They finished, just for your note, Mikey, live, they would finish on the E minor. So you know that bit where there's the open chord and they go dun dun dun. There's the big finish with all the guitar stuff. They used to finish just on the E minor. They never played the big finish live. So yeah.
Okay. We'll flip the vinyl over on side two. Track one on side two is Tall Ships Go. Mikey.
I love the fact that they've started side two of this album with as much gusto as they did with side one. I think they could have played it slightly differently, but you've got this really, it's probably the fastest tempo we've had so far, to be completely honest with you. But it's a rocker. It's really, really good. What I particularly liked about this is the guitar work. You've got these beautiful melodies going on, And at the same time, you've got this other guitar work going on, which is just textures and layers and twangs. Oh my God, it's just the twin guitar work is absolutely sublime. Really beautiful. This was one of the ones that I thought should have been a single. I think this has single written all over it. What I will say about it, and I'm glad you picked up on this earlier on, Graham, is that this song has a very live feeling to it. I was of the impression that this could have been recorded live in the studio. It is tight. Don't get me wrong, it's perfect. It doesn't sound raw or loose or anything, but there's just a sound and an energy behind it. And I just thought, I can imagine this being played live, and I would love to hear it live because I think it would be fucking awesome. And the outro, again, I've kept saying this, but the bloody drums, honestly, it's just absolutely awesome. The guitars and the drums at the end, Jesus, blew the top of my head off. Absolutely brilliant. One slightly cheeky thing that I did write down is I thought The Darkness could do a really good version of this. And I don't know why. I was just getting Darkness vibes towards the end. Forget the voice of just the music. I just thought it would be fun. I just think it would be fun.
No, just for the listeners, no one is nodding to that comment. So.
Although I like The Darkness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Anyway.
Craig, what do you make of Tall
You mean me even?
I said
You said Craig.
I said Craig.
He just said it
That's
long
your
and
name.
slow.
My first note was Death and Water.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with Mikey, but I think I might preempt John a bit because I think Mr. Brzezinski's a little bit overly busy on this track. The drums are like it's everything in the kitchen sink.
It's quite simple though. It's not. He's not doing all this clever stuff.
But it's ridiculously energetic.
Yeah.
But yeah,
The whole
solid.
song is.
Yeah,
Sorry?
so it's
The whole song is ridiculously energetic. It is.
Yeah. But no, lyrically, it's interesting. With somebody who, I think away at sea or away in the Navy or whatever, a bit like what we've talked about already about, finding their life out there, and him either is it about his dad or a family member being away?
His dad.
Yeah, that's what I felt like.
Yeah.
Well, I felt like where he just sees his dad in dreams and thinks about him, what he's getting up to and what his life's like away from home. But yeah, okay, good.
Okay, I don't think it could have been a single, Craig, because the chorus does not say at any point "Tall ships go," does it? So that would immediately in the 80s disqualify it from being a single.
Yeah, it was Mike who said a single, not me.
It ain't got a title in the chorus. So, is that a delay on the guitar at the beginning? Great.
Yeah. So there's a lot of people say when I first heard this, I thought, what the fuck, they're using synthesizers.
Well, I think it's either a delay or a sequencer.
It is. It's a delay. It's an eventide on the guitar. Yeah.
It's nice. It gives it a great, different. I think it's a better opener than Flame of the West to the side, because it draws you in with that, not with that wall of sound straight away. It draws you in with that echo effect or that delay effect on the guitar, brings it in. Great track. I mean, Craig, I don't have too much of an issue with Mark on this. He is busy elsewhere, but yeah, it's okay. Go on, Gray.
So it is about his dad, and it's about, so his dad was in the Merchant Navy, worked on trawlers, and was a marine engineer. So I think he started off in the pits, but he did night school because he didn't want to stay in the pits, and he did night school and became a marine engineer and joined the Merchant Navy and went away, and was hardly ever home. But that's true of both Stuart and Bruce Watson. Bruce Watson's dad worked in the mines, but worked overseas. Stuart's wife grew up in Sierra Leone because her dad worked in diamond mines. So that everybody that was around them, all their friends and all their relatives and all their friends were miners or sailors' kids. You know, and,
Mr. Hogarth as well.
yeah, you know what I mean. At the time, I would never have known this, but there are things that have come to light over the years. So if you look at the verse, where's it gone? Dum, dum, dum. And you seem so bright and hard like a bloody edge of sword, but if you're an enemy, then you look a lot like me. There are rumors and talk of abuse within the family. And I mean, his dad eventually went to jail for child abuse, but that was after Stuart had died, so it was a lot later. But there was talk of darkness in the home and things. So there's elements of this side that are very, very personal. But at the time, no one was aware of that. You weren't aware of the reasons for these. It just, you knew it was a song about his dad because he talks about it in some of the interviews and stuff, but he doesn't talk about any of the darkness inside. But you can see the impact it had that his dad was never there, and he woke up and he only ever spoke to his dad in his dreams. He never had the ability to tell his dad how he felt or ask his dad how he felt and what have you. And I think that stayed with him forever. Yeah. But again, the two side opens on this are absolute powerhouses, and I get, you know, the way this begins with that guitar, and then Mark and Tony coming in, it's just phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And they were just as good at just as powerful live. It was just phenomenal live. This was the first tour I saw them on, so yeah.
Second track on the second side is
he says, reading his notes, The Girl with Grey Eyes, Mikey.
Yeah. It's probably the slowest song on the album. I just feel that it's a little bit misplaced. I think I would have enjoyed this more if it had been pushed a little bit further down. I think coming after such a strong opener, I found this one not as enjoyable a listen as what I probably should. The guitars are absolutely dreamy. The bass work is sublime. There's loads of reverb. There's like delay and echo effects going on. All the elements that I should like about it are there, but it just doesn't quite hit for me. It's got a very sort of, I want to say Police or could be Sting. It's got a very Police or Sting feel to it for me. I don't know. It's just not for me. I think I don't know whether it entirely fits on the album. And again, if the next track had been swapped in place with this one, I think as a central part to the side, it might have been a better fit. There's a gorgeous instrumental break around about the 3-minute mark.
3 minute
Absolutely
10.
wonderful.
Yeah, I've got it in there.
Yeah, they're absolutely beautiful. But there's nothing major to write home about here for me.
Okay. Craig, what do you make of it?
Yeah, I'm with Mikey. It's an interesting change of pace, an interesting change of style and direction. Does it work? Yeah, it does. It's not I think one of the strongest tracks on the album, but I'm just trying. I've been trying to get my head around the lyrics, because if you're using Napoleon and Josephine as a metaphor of two lovers who weren't necessarily really lovers, if you know your history with Napoleon and Josephine, that was a political thing more than anything. And I think is this a love that isn't, or a love that wanted to be? I'm still processing. Obviously, Gray, you'll be able to explain it a lot better. But it's an interesting lyric, shall we say, and I haven't quite fathomed it yet.
Okay. I kind of agree with Mikey.
It's a bit like a not quite fleshed out B-side, really. It's a bit slight, some of it. And I'm sorry to be singing Tony's praises again, but he's playing some fretless bass on this, which is just off the charts.
It's brilliant.
But it's not a great song, or it's a bit slight, isn't it? Is there a version, Gray, where this was replaced with Belief in the Small Man?
No, it was this or Belief in the Small Man was going to be so they made the choice between this and Belief in the Small Man.
Okay.
Or maybe actually no, it was Rain Dance and Belief in the Small Man was the choice.
Okay, yeah, it's I mean, as I'd got the same instrumental break that Mikey talked about on my notes. It really is nice. It doesn't really fit with the rest of the record, though. You know, it's not even of the same sort of thing as Come Back to Me. It's just a bit, I don't know, it's a bit slight. Gray?
I think it's the weakest track on the album. And I think it suffers for various reasons. One is it's probably the most obtuse lyrics on the album. So the rest of them, you can read the political intent. You can read. So this one, apparently, so it's dedicated to his wife. So Sandra was his wife. So Alexandra is his wife in this. So the song is written about his wife, Sandra Adamson, or Sandra Davidson, as she was initially. And I find it really difficult because he ended up splitting up with her. She never liked him going away on tour, but he never liked being away without her. She hated going on tour with him, and they would always fight. And so I can see where some of the lyrical stuff comes in. But the best part of it is Tony Butler's playing. So on the Great Divide again, on the Big Country podcast, there is actually an isolated guitar part recorded by Bruce Watson and his son Jamie for a guide for when they were doing the Steeltown tour after Stuart had died. And if I'm really honest, it's insipid. It doesn't do, the guitar part itself doesn't do anything for me, and I think without Tony's bass, the song wouldn't have been a song. Interestingly, it was a Bruce Watson song. The lyrics were Stuart's, but the music was something that Bruce had developed as a demo years before, and I think he's released it since. He released it called Grey Eyes. So it is, it's a Bruce Watson right, and I don't know. There is a theory that Just Like Josephine is not Napoleon, and Josephine, there's a theory. So Stuart was a voracious reader. He would read everything. There's loads of literary references throughout his work, and there is, I can't remember the name of the book. I'll find it and post it after we've published this. But there was a book written by a famous American author about a couple that were trying to get together. They couldn't get. She wouldn't marry him until the house was ready. The girl was called Josephine. They spent all these years courting. Eventually, the house was ready. They got on the train to go to New York to the new house. He got ill and died, and they never had the night to consummate the wedding. They never had the night to. So there's a theory that was the book rather than the Not Tonight, Josephine from Napoleon. But again, feeds into the obtuseness of the lyrics. I really struggle with it.
Okay. Let's move on then to Rain Dance, Mikey.
Oh, I love this. I love this song, and to hear that they were going to maybe swap this out for something else is heartbreaking. I'll just love the fact, first of all, that this is in March time. You've just got that 1-2-1-2 thing going on. Absolutely love it. The guitars, I think you mentioned it at the top of the podcast, Graham, where there's this sort of like almost like a bagpipe replacement guitar sound. Oh my God. I mean, the only thing that could have bettered it would have been to have bagpipes on it, because I think, honestly, that would have made my day. There's a song on Mike Oldfield's Tubular Bells 2 called Altered State, which has got a very, very similar guitar style. And the bass on this track as well. Oh my God, it is absolutely awesome. The outro, the musicality of the entire thing. The lyrics, I think it's, using rain and water as a metaphor for, life-changing situations. We've heard it before, but the music, my God, this is close to being actually. This is probably my favorite track on the album. I think it's absolutely stunning. Yeah, it's the one I've played the most anyway, and certainly gone back to quite a bit. I just think the guitars, the bass, the drum, everything about it, and I love a good marching song. It's nothing. There's nothing not to like in this. I think it's absolutely brilliant.
Okay, Greg.
Yeah, I get what Mike's saying just in the last bit there, like a marching song. It's got that kind of like beat to it. It's almost got the feel of a protest song.
Yes.
But that's what I kind of take out of it. It's, and you know what, it almost, even though just take any kind of Schwarzer sentimentality out of it, it's almost like a Old Lang Syne kind of sentiment where, looking to the future, looking to all that kind of jazz. Yeah, it's a very interesting lyric, and I think it's a good song. It's not like Mikey, it's not one of my favorites on the album, but it's a good strong one, and it screams Scottish without truly screaming Scottish.
Yeah, it's okay. There's a bit of, it kind of sags a bit this in the middle of this side for me. I think following The Girl with Grey Eyes, it's okay. The best bits are where it breaks down to just the bass and drums around 320 for me, and then it builds back up again into that twin guitar thing that you've just talked about. It's okay. I'm not a huge fan of this, if I'm honest. Great.
I love it. But I think I love it because it is.
You just looked at me when I said I didn't like it.
Yeah, I love it because it is that anthemic Scottish. Let's get the bad year out of the way and move forward to the next year and what have you.
I thought you said let's get the badger out of the way then.
yeah.
That badger's get with
I can do that. I can do that as well. Badger.com.
Sorry, I've seen that one now. Throwing you.
Yeah, but it is. So it's all about the harshness of the winter. The risk that spring comes. You're getting a late frost and affecting the well-being and the sort of the value of the year. The end of the summer, how things get upset. So it like takes you through the year, and then it goes. But it was a good year. We were able to get enough money to go into town and buy the wedding gown. Let's look and see what happens next. So it's that kind of, we've been together, we've gone through it, we've struggled, we've achieved, we've set ourselves up to start again for the next. So there's a real positivity to it. And it is, so interestingly, Mikey, the bagpipe sound they were famous for, in the Skids, Stuart started playing a lot of drone strings, which is where the edge came from, and got a lot of his influences from. But it turns out, this is only from reading recently in Staying Alive. Sandra, his wife, was a Highland dancer, and she used to listen to traditional pipe music, dance music, with pipers on a cassette while he was in the new room next door playing his guitar, and he would sometimes come in and try and mimic the bagpipes on his guitar. So that's where that style came, with the drone notes and the melody played on the same thing. So yeah, it is very much. That's what the only thing that could have been better was a proper bagpipe. It's one of the more big country songs on the album, and it's it's always been really popular with the fans, and I think because it is closer to The Crossing than it was to anything else on this album, and certainly what came afterwards.
Okay. The penultimate track on the album is The Great Divide. Mikey, what do you make of
that? It's another rocker, isn't it? You'd be forgiven thinking it was a ZZ Top track when it first kicks in. I think
you've been listening to.
That was a joke. It was a joke.
You complain
it
about
was
my cloth ears?
Well, I just think I've been listening to a different fucking album to him.
No, I just think it's just got that uplifting quality to it, you know. It's nice to actually have something quite joyous musically at this point of the album. And I think this is single quality for me. It's another one that's, you know, like if you hold it up against what was released as singles, I mean, for me, the only one that probably definitely should have been is East of Eden. But I think this was a missed trick. And again, it's the drums that make this song for me. You just cannot fault the musicianship on this track. You've got that double guitar work going on again throughout the track. And it's got this really pleasant song structure. It's not just a conventional verse chorus play out. You know, it's just different. And it was just nice to have something that felt different yet coherent at the same time. Yeah, this was close to being my second favorite on the album. I think East of Eden only just beat it to the post.
Okay. Craig, what do you make of it?
Yeah, I like it. I do feel it's got a definite nod to early Simple Minds with the riffs a bit. But lyrically in that, I think this is one of the ones where we talked earlier on about like growing up and realizing what life is. And I think it's a very, very good lyric. Very, very good lyric of somebody who's, you know, possibly in their like mid-20s and realizing what the world is around them. You know, a bit of
Life's a load of
bit
shit.
yeah, a bit the scales falling from your eyes. But strong song.
Okay. Yeah, this is where the side picks up for me. These last two tracks are really quite good, I think. I think The Great Divide is great. You know, as you said, it's kind of the first album, Big Country, but then with different colours that sort of take it somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I think the lyric is probably one of them. I don't know about positive, but it's just a different angle, isn't it? It's about that realizing where you are and needing to escape. And, you know, here comes the Great Divide. Here comes a sign of hope. Yeah, it's positivity, which it's only taken us 9 songs to get to. Yeah, it's great. Really picks up from here. Great.
It's really weird that it sounds positive because it's not what it's written about. So it's about the divide between management and the unions and the workers. And it was written from the perspective, one of their friends worked on the dockyards in Rosyth. And it was at the time when the dockyards were getting privatized. And the unions, you know, the management is saying, well, we're going to make 2,000 people redundant, but the rest of you will have a job. And your jobs will be safe as long as we're making money. So it's that awareness that there is the divide between the people that are doing the work. So that you'll see the bit, I hope I never fall behind the wall, although the sun would ring, a skill that will take years and still no fear, although I never did lie. I had the foreman's kiss, I never lisped, and I'm sure it was a downfall. So he thought he had the boss's favour, and he'd spent all that time getting his skills right and what have you, and yet he was still at risk of losing his job. So it's really because the song is it's got a really uplifting sound to it. It's got a really positive. There's even that guitar part, that slide guitar thing, is great, and it sounds really vibrant and really positive. But I think it's meant to be the management telling the story in a positive way.
Yeah, but it's that, you know, that sense of power together, make the engine roar.
Yeah.
Push the token door, you know, it's all that is positive, you know.
Even
in a really dire situation, their unity is a positive thing.
Yeah, exactly. And perhaps that's the positive element of it, is the unions working together and you know, standing together and feeling strong. Yeah. But again, it's one of the more Big Country out songs on the album. And I agree with you, it's where this side picks up. again.
Okay. Well, the last track on the album is Just a Shadow, Mikey.
I'm going to upset everybody, because I personally feel this is a little bit of a damp squib, for an album closer. I get the despair, I get the frustration. I just feel like the previous track would have made a better album closer than this one. I like it, but it's nowhere near the apex of some of the stuff on the album for me. That being said, the last minute and a half is absolutely beautiful. No lyrics, just music. The band really, really shines here. And it is probably one of the best pieces of music on the entire album. So, Game of Two Halves for me, but I just think we could have had a better ending than what we got.
Greg?
I half agree with Mikey there. I do think it's not a good choice for an album closer musically. I think musically it was a very good choice of a single because this riff and everything, like musically, it's a very, very accessible tune. And it's very catchy, you know, it's earwormy, and I think it's lyrically it's great, you know, it follows all the themes that we've had, you know, about growing up and, you know, and the realization of where you are in life and that, and I think it's great, and I think it's a good single, and I think it's a solid tune. Is it an album closer? Not for me, but I really like it. Really like it.
This is the best thing on the record by fucking miles. This absolutely dumps on the rest of the tracks from a height. It's wonderful. You can hear what's happening. It's emotional. It's brilliant. Absolutely the best thing on the record for me. I just can't say that strong enough. I'm sorry, I'm not going against what you guys have said, but this is brilliant. Absolutely.
But do you think it's an album
stunning.
closer?
I think it justifies the 9 tracks that have come before it, mate. There's so much depth to this that I don't get from some of the other tracks. It's musically intricate. The lyrics are amazing. And the mix is great. You can hear what's happening. Why doesn't the rest of the record sound like this? Anyway, Gray, what do you think of it?
So much as I think the first 2 songs on each side are barnstormers, I think the end of both sides is where the strength of the album is. I think Where the Rose Sown and Come Back to Me Together is just phenomenal. But I think this, and it's not even because of the mix for me, it's just the world weariness of the lyrics, looking at a man looking back at, we should be more, we should be able to be better, we should be able to do more than this, and the woman doing the same. We should be able, you know, why have we made these decisions? We should be stronger, we should do more. Things like it all seemed fine for you till the struggle of ambition turned in violence upon you. Sometimes a landslide comes. If you're hiding in that avalanche, you need a place to run. You know, I mean, it's dark and sort of really dense and oppressive, but the song is so open. Is that the counterbalance?
I get a little bit of the Smiths and a bit of Simple Minds in it again.
Totally. So
I don't really
I'm
like
gonna
the Smiths. I don't know why I'm saying that, but
so I'm going to refer to The Great Divide again, and they actually refer to the Smiths when they talk about this song and about the ability to sell misery with positivity. But for me, is that it is a payoff for the album. It should have been the lead single. It's in my top 3 songs on the album. And my top 3 songs are not the Barnstormers. But lyrically, I think this is. When you said, was it you, John, that said come back to me as a side of Big Country you'd never seen. Was it?
Yes. Yeah.
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 But I think this is similar in that in that lyrical context of somebody else's perspective and understanding the emotional weight that people were under. Stuart Adamson's really good at doing that. He did it on he did it on Chance. He did it on this. He did it on a couple of songs on the next album as well. He's very, very good at that, making you understand how people can feel. It's just stunning. It is also the best mixed track on the album. But before we go to the single, which came out before this, I am going to say, so I've been listening to this as you guys have on the deluxe edition. I've got the normal CD, I've got the reissued CD from '96, and I've got the original vinyl. I only got the original vinyl out today and played that, and it sounds so much better than the CDs, all of the CDs. And I wonder if it's one of these things that fell foul of they didn't actually remaster and remix things properly for different formats at the time. I don't know, because but they've never remixed it. It's only ever been remastered, and it suffers from a bad mix in the first place, I think, which is a shame because the musicianship on this album is as good as anything that U2 or Simple Minds or anything like that ever did. It really is. In places, I'd say better.
Okay. Do you want to do Wonderland now?
Yeah, go on.
Okay, so Wonderland is a single that preceded the album, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So the album came out in October. Well, first single was in September. This was Wonderland came out in January '84, and it was a single in the UK.
Okay.
And it was an EP in the States. It was a 4-track EP in the States, but it was a single in the UK. Yeah.
Mikey, you've listened to Wonderland, haven't you?
I have, yeah. This is where my first comment about my impression of Big Country was some U2 Simple Minds fusion. And to me, Wonderland is a U2 Simple Minds fusion. That being said, it's joyous, it's good, and it is bright, sonically bright. When you hold this up to the rest, to what we've just listened to, it's pulled apart. And knowing now that it came out between the first two albums surprises me, because it sounds like it should have come after this album. It sounds like a band advancing, and maybe that's just because of how the previous like Steeltown was produced or mixed or whatever. But this track just shines. It really does. It's entertaining. I can see why it was a single. It's almost like it was written to be a single.
Probably was, yeah.
It was, yeah.
You know, and hats off to them. Got to number 8 in the charts. Well done. Yeah, it's good. Quite enjoyed it.
Okay. Greg?
Yeah, my note said bright and glossy compared to what we've listened to. But yeah, it's a quite uplifting kind of track. I think that it doesn't sound like 1984, but it's definitely got a mash of Simple Minds and U2, like Mikey said. I think this would fit more 1985 than, let's say, the start of '84. But yeah, it's a tiny tune.
Well, yeah, it's really hard to listen to this after listening to the album or the you know what I mean. This is just, it's so open and clear and powerful, with a great sort of hook and a chorus. This on my notes I put, this is Big Country to me. This is what they sound like. It's a real shame that the album wasn't mixed like this, and I just don't know why, because it's the same guy, same producer, Steve Lillywhite. Maybe he should have done Rush.
Maybe he should have done Rush. I think this is brighter because they had more time to produce it and mix it, because the Crossing tour was still ongoing up into early 1984. But I mean, just bum bum bum. So Chance was the last single from the Crossing that came out in August. August 83. So that was 5-6 months after, which that was quite a long time in those days, really. 5 or 6 months after they released this as a stopgap because they were still touring. So they'd written it as well. They had time to work on it. If you read about the sessions for Steeltown, they were still writing a lot of the material in the studio, and they were felt under pressure to create stuff, which I think is why the ideas are there, but they weren't given the space. Whereas this was written, and it was given to Steve Lillywhite to say, make it sound good. Do you know what I mean? So it was a different process. It's brilliant. It is. I think every big country fan in the world will say that Wonderland is one of their high points. Particularly, I think at the time when the US EP came out, and people who were collectors, it was one of the first ways to get your hands on the title track from the first album, because that didn't appear on the first album. So on the American version, you've got Wonderland, and then you've got three tracks. 3 tracks from the Cross. It was all 4 together from the Cross, I think it was. I'll find out. I'll tell you in a second. But you've got Angle Park and the Crossing. And the Crossing didn't appear until one of the reissues of, or one of the different versions of the Crossing album. And it's a joyous song. I think one of the biggest differences between this and the album is it sounds bright, it sounds open, it sounds like Big Country, and it sounds fucking happy. Not a lot of Steeltown sounds happy. It's as if Stuart Adamson lyrically, mentally was an entirely different space. By the end of they actually cancelled the last leg of the Crossing tour. They were meant to play Australia, and they cancelled. And the reason they cancelled was exhaustion from Stuart Adamson. He just cannot do the dates. I need to stop. I can't do this anymore. So I think the positivity that was in some of the Crossing, the positivity was this. By the time he got to working on Steeltown, he was broken. There's a lot of dark stories about the time of recording and writing with Steeltown. So I think he was just in an entirely different place. And that's really relevant, I think. I think really, not relevant, really apparent in this. But it's a joyous song. Brilliant. The 12-inch versions are mental. I don't know if Mikey's listened to them yet.
I didn't quite get to that.
Oh my! Like they are. So on I think it was the '96 reissue had the 12-inch version on it.
I noticed that, yeah.
But then there's other versions of it as well. I mean, they've got when they get onto the next album, there's things like they've got the Boston mix and all this kind of stuff. Got all, like they just got really into 12-inch reissue world and a Frankie mentality. But I had at this point. I had all the 7 inches and 12 inches of Big Country, so I was into this was a high point for me. Absolutely brilliant. The memories of the time are amazing.
Interestingly, when they were at number 8, Frankie Goes to Hollywood was at number 1 with Relax.
Was it? Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because they were huge. The Crossing exploded. There was a lot of expectation for Steeltown, and it went straight in at number 1. But I think it lost it because all of a sudden there was that vibe about this isn't what we expected. It's not the Big Country of the old album. It's not. It's very, very different, and I think it failed completely. And there's the story of why were Big Country not on Live Aid? Bob Geldof says he thought the band had broken up. He thought they'd gone by the summer of '85. He was under the impression that they were done because this album was. I mean, Steeltown was panned quite openly by a lot of people at the time. The positive reviews were few and far between, and yet the fans loved it to an extent. enough to make it number one, but not enough to keep it in the charts.
Okay.
It's looked back far more fondly than it was at the time.
Yeah. And then, of course, they followed it up with the Seer.
Yeah, with Kate Bush on backing vocals and
86.
yeah.
But that's for another podcast.
It certainly is. It's a very prog moment on that.
Great. It's time for my favourite slot. But you are going to take my favourite slot today. So, because of the time it was released, there is just an LP, a CD, and a cassette.
There is.
For. And he's waving currently, listeners, an LP at us.
And it is the original gatefold sleeve version of East of Eden, of our Steeltown, with the big picture in the middle. And when the artwork's, it's very, and if you look at it, I'll open it up, I don't know if you'll be able to see it. While I chill back, it's that, what do they call it? That style of art, the sort of the communist block colours and
yeah.
So
the artwork for the album and the singles, I just think is absolutely on point.
It's brilliant, absolutely, but the artwork goes across the whole thing, and it's really
very Anton Corbijn like, isn't it?
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah,
and the outfits, the guys. I mean, the first album they were all like jeans and flannel shirts with t-shirts. This album they're all in 1920s trousers with, sort of the high-waisted, puffy trousers with braces and
it was the
and working man shirts.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Great Depression look, exactly. And they looked, and then the next album was all fucking silk shirts and lace ties, but we'll not go there. But
that's probably the big country I remember.
So that was Look Away and The Teacher and all that kind of stuff, the big singles at the time.
Yeah.
But this, I didn't realise just quite how well this sounded until I put it on again today and I play. As I said to you, I can't remember what album it was recently we were talking about, and I've put the floor standers back in my music room rather than the small bookshelf speakers. And some of the old, I mean, these are not 180 gram heavyweight vinyl. They're really bendy. But there's an openness to this mix or this pressing that does not exist on the CDs. I was surprised today hearing because you can hear the guitar parts in the different places. The sort of stereo images there. It's great. I do wish we would get a remix, but I don't think we will ever will. I don't think there's enough demand, or there's also far too much animosity and grief within the existing members of the band now for them to get anywhere near an agreement to do that kind of thing.
Am I right in thinking that Brzezicki has a big country lineup and Bruce has a big country lineup?
It's Bruce and Tony Butler.
Oh, is it right? Okay.
Yeah. And there's a legal case at the moment and a writ out against them for performing under the wrong name. I'm sure it's Tony Butler. Yeah. And it's a hell of a shame. I mean, the last time I saw them was after when I saw them right up until Stuart passed. Friends from school, stepbrother, we'd all go to gigs, all go and see them in the Barrowlands every time they played. But I went to see them in, I think it was Leeds in the O2 on the Crossing 25th anniversary tour with Mike Peters as the vocalist. And it was brilliant because they played a lot of stuff. They played the Crossing. They played as in the album, but they also played some of the deeper cuts. Like they played some of the stuff off Restless Natives. They played the Crossing thing. But when they played on the stage, Mike Peters, although he was the lead singer and played the guitar and what have you, he stood off to one side and they had a spotlight on the stage for where Stuart would have been. So it was like, and they mentioned Stuart and they said, look, I won't stand there. That's his space. He was the person that filled that place and no one else will ever fill it. So it was a really good experience. Musically it was brilliant because it was Mark, Bruce and Tony. And Mike Peters was off the same time. He was of that kind of same sort of the Welsh, Scottish, Irish, and Northeastern. There was that like sort of that industrial mentality and the sort of the music that the sort of the rock. I call it rock folk. It's not folk rock. It's rock music, but with a folk sensibility, with the lyrics and what have you. So he came from that same place, and it works so well. I won't go and see them now. There's a lot of things that Bruce Watson does and has done that I don't agree with, and I think it's a real travesty. There's a book out by Tony. It's only £3, and I'm really worried to buy it because basically he says there's a lot of things that happened with Stuart, and then after Stuart when we broke up, that I didn't feel comfortable talking about, but I think now I have to, and I'm like, oh, do I want to know? I probably will, but it's been an interesting journey with them.
Yeah,
I think one of the sort of my three always in my top 5 favorite bands, always since they came out.
and where does this album feature in your Big Country rankings?
It's in my top 3.
How many albums are there?
7, 8. You've got Crossing, this, The Seer, Why the Long Face, Buffalo Skinners. You've got I can never remember the one.
Peace in Our Time.
Peace in Our Time. That's the one I can never remember because it's where they went really shit. It's quite low, but yeah. So it's in the top 3 albums. Quite often second. It'll never be first because The Crossing will always be my favorite Big Country album because it was that. You know how I often say when I heard Punch and Judy on the Friday Rock Show, I was like, what the fuck is that? Hearing Big Country for the first time was exactly the same. So it was that thing that immediately grabbed you and went, well, no one else is doing this. How the hell are they doing that? Yeah.
Okay.
And also, they were Scottish, a bit like Marillion.
They were, but they weren't. You said it at the top of the plan.
This is what I'm saying to it. They were Scottish, a bit like Marillion.
Yeah. Okay. Any final words from Mikey on this album?
If you've not heard Big Country before and have that U2 Simple Minds misconception, put it in the bin, give it a listen. You'll be pleasantly surprised.
Okie doke. Greg?
Yeah, it's definitely worth a listen. Definitely worth a listen. And if you're interested in something that's going to hit you like a wall of sound and something that's got really interesting lyrics, it's definitely worth a go.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's a Big Country album. There probably are better ones to pick. It would be my shout, but I know it means a lot to you, Greg, and that's why I'm reviewing it today.
But do you think it's time to have we've had our say and we'll dive into a little bit of our comments from the Facebook group?
Yeah.
I was about to say what we nickname it, but I shall refrain from that.
You can say that if you want.
I'm not going to get lambasted for saying Reader's Wives. not on your Nelly.
Briefly, earlier today, Gray posted that we were going to review Steeltown and asked if folks like Big Country and what their views of this album were. And we had a dozen or so answers in this short time between posting it and tonight. Stephen Dempster says, I love Big Country, had the pleasure of seeing them many times in and around Aberdeen, both with and without the much loved and lost Stuart Adamson. I met the band in 2015 as we booked them to headline a Hogmanay gig I assisted in organising each year. On to the album, I loved most of it, particularly East of Eden and Where the Rose is Sown. You could see that they were really starting to head somewhere special with this album.
Mark Griffin. I love Steeltown. It's one of the first albums I bought and I played it to death. It's got a real edge to it. It would be a stretch to call it a concept album, but its consistent theme explores the struggles of Scottish workers during the industrial decline and British politics. Stuart Adamson stands out as an underrated songwriter and guitarist. Steeltown is also my favourite Big Country album, though the Buffalo Skinners from 1992 also marks a strong return to form for the band.
David Beckwith says Big Country were probably the first band I properly got into in terms of albums, collecting, etc. long before Marillion. As the original 4-piece, they created some great music, and Stuart's Suicide for me closed the book on them. I can remember them now by listening to those albums and watching the old live performances. I saw them many times live with Stuart, but only once with Mike Peters, and it just wasn't the same. Since then, they've become a tribute act to themselves, which is sad. Although I understand the need for Bruce and Mark to make a living, I actually started with them at the time of The Seer, but quickly discovered Steeltown, and I love it. Side 1 is perfect. The start of side 2 dips a bit, but has a great recovery with the Great Divide and the awesome Just a Shadow. The imagery was also very strong, certainly for their first 3 albums, and later with the Buffalo Skinners and Why the Long Face. Just starting to read the new book on Stuart, which apparently is hard going. Fans should also check out the Big Country trading post on Facebook if you're into collecting. Stuart Menzies does a fab job as well as raising money for charity.
Keith Pavitt, my favourite album of theirs. Saw them on the Seer tour and went to every tour till they split. Such a shame Stuart left us so young. Tragic. And Simon Clark, old friend of ours.
Final word to Simon Clark, yeah.
Yeah. I just read the Stay Alive biography. Fecking hell, it's a tough read in places.
Okay, well, thanks for those comments, and you'll see more chat like that in our Planet Music Facebook group. Please join it and join the conversation. Suggest albums we can review in the future.
I would just like to add, so I took that post and I shared it with friends of mine, a couple of guys I was at school with and what have you, and said, we're doing this tonight, have you got any comments? And guy I was at school with, Stuart Walker McInnes, his comment is, the best opening song to any of their albums. Rain Dance gets the heart pumping, but Girl with the Grey Eyes is shit. And he is a huge Big Country fan. But like, so I've seen loads of comments over the last few weeks from friends and things about Big Country, because obviously the book's just come out, so if you're a fan, it's in everybody's face. But yeah, thanks for listening, guys.
No, great recommendation. That's what we think of Steeltown by Big Country, and we'll be back in 2 weeks with another album. Don't know what it is yet because we haven't agreed.
Super wobbling.
It keeps pushing for Mike Batt. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you to Mikey K.
Thanks very much again, guys, and thanks, Graham. Great album.
Thank you to Graham Tennick.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for taking the time to listen.
Thank you, mate. And thank you to Greg.
Why, thank you, young sir.
All that remains to be said is good night from me.
And it's good night from him.
Take care.
And stay alive. Yay! Thanks for listening
to Planet Music from the makers of Planet Marzipan.
If you like what you've heard, please like and subscribe, and maybe even join our Facebook discussion group.
You can contact us at planetmarzipanpodcast@gmail.com.